With EV sales going up absolutely everywhere in the world, there's still this persistent myth that EV demand has plateaued, and that's why the big three are stepping back on their ambitions. And I'm here to tell you that just ain't why, and we will discuss it. I'm Brian. Welcome to my Tesla Weekend. Joined with me, as sometimes, is Herbert from Brighter with Herbert. Let's just get right into it. Did you hear that Ford is scaling back on their giant battery plant, their $3.5 billion joint venture with CATL? They're scaling it back. Have you heard that?
I heard it, and it was like a smaller footprint, smaller dollars, everything smaller.
Yeah,
uh,
they're saying, well, it's because demand is so soft for EVs. Do you think demand is soft for EVs?
no, of course not. It isn't. I mean, there's demand is soft for their EVs, and so clearly they made an attempt to sell them. And there's, because their price point is high. I mean, Ford is struggling in making affordable EVs, and so the more they make, the more they lose. What is it, $32,000 per EV? And it's growing pains, absolutely. But at the same time, they can't. That's the hard part about a legacy company, the innovator's dilemma. You've got this gas car thing that's going on really well, trying to invest in a brand new technology needs brand new factories, losing money. And so they're taking advantage of this scenario where, okay, I'm going to slow down and say that it's a slowdown in EVs, but really it was they were expecting a higher demand of their sales because they need to get over 200. I think the number is 100,000. Once a car company hits over 100,000 sales, then they have enough scale. These guys aren't even near that at this point, and so they need to throw more money in. And so they're going to push back and say, "Hey, we don't need to do this now. We've got." They might even do hybrids, but they're going to push on the gas cars for now. So, they're struggling so hard, and they're just using this as an excuse.
And that may be why the Lightning was built essentially just on a Ford chassis with as few changed parts as possible. That introduces a lot of compromises, but it's a cost saving measure while you're still ramping up. And it's frustrating to see the pushback against this. That, well, it's CATL is a Chinese company and we don't like that. Right, but these are American jobs,
No.
these are American cars, these are American everything except the tech that's being licensed to build them. So it's a little bonkers in that regard. So the Chevy Silverado pickup, which was supposed to come out next year, reservation holders got notification. It's going to be a little longer, guys. It's going to be a little longer. And I think it's more of the same thing. It's too expensive for what it is. It's going to have the same battery pack as the Hummer, which for reference weighs more than a base Honda Civic. Just the battery. That's a heavy beast. Do you think? Yeah, I mean, the third one would be Ram, the third big pickup. They announced, oh, we've got one with 700 miles of range. I mean, not all electric, of course. It's only got like 100 miles of electric range, but it also has an onboard generator that runs on fossil fuel that can extend the range by another 500 miles. That's
Yeah, I mean, so this is the way it works, right? So you are a manufacturer, in this case, auto manufacturer. So the first thing you'll do is you'll say, okay, here is a prototype, and I'm going to show at the car show. You have no intention. You're just trying to be there to create a brand. Oh my God, this thing's amazing. They'll announce price. They'll announce the speed, and it's going to be a gorgeous supercar. They never make this car because it's just not. It was designed to wow you, to create a halo for the brand, but it's not ever going to come out. Then the next thing they'll do is they'll actually go ahead and produce. Okay, I'm in an electric vehicle. I'm going to show you. I'm going to do electric vehicles. So they make an announcement. They produce it, but it's intended for small volume. That's all they intend to do with this. And so they just create small number of cars. Or they're willing to, let's say 10,000, 20,000. They're not meant, again, wasn't built for scale. They're just there to show it. Now, this is where oftentimes companies, and even Tesla might have done this, every pretty well does it. They announce a low price to just shock the world that this thing's going to be amazing. And it's got all these features. But as they actually start producing, even the low volume ones, they can't do it right. And they pull back, and then people are disappointed. And then Elon has said this a million times before. Auto manufacturing is so hard. It's got 10,000 parts to this thing. You're only as fast as your slowest supplier and the slowest bottleneck. you're a company like a legacy automaker, you just don't have, you don't have the culture, you don't have the processes in place, you're not, automated. And so things are going to much more likely. But even Tesla has delays. And so there's going to be a delay. And then the hardest part is scaling. Like if you can actually scale at a profitable way, very few car companies has ever done that. So, you hear these companies saying, "Hey, I've got this car, but I'm going to pull, going to be delayed," or they may never make it past the hump.
Yeah. And I wonder how much of it is with these limited edition trucks. I wonder how much of it is a halo to try and bring people into the showrooms to sell them the trucks that they actually do make money on, that they actually
Yeah.
do want to sell. Now, if you look at Stellantis in Europe, they just announced that they're building an LFP factory in partnership with CATL, and that is going to provide the batteries needed for their cars, for their compact cars in Europe, which is still a big market there. The European manufacturers did not abandon compacts and sedans the way the US markets did. And the other day, Rob Maurer on Tesla Daily showed a great chart showing production and profitability by year, where he was showing that even though Ford's production is down, their margins are up. And that's because they abandoned the cars that weren't highly profitable. You have to sell those cars. You may not want to sell value meals, but you have to sell the value meal if you want people to come in for the more expensive items too. And I think long term, this has the potential to really come back and bite them in the butt, but we shall see on that.
I'm glad that they're making partnerships with battery manufacturers. Of course they are. At the end of the day, those what is their production goals? Because they're not going to, there's in a catch 22. They can't sell at scale, and so then they're going to sell small volume. And then cattle will partner with you for sure, but who are they going to favor? They're going to favor the company that can guarantee 2 million sales per year, 5 million sales the next year, 20 million the next year because they're in growth mode and they've got profitable business. And then these little guys that says, "Yeah, I'll partner you with you, big brand," but at the end of the day, it's going to be, 100,000 if they're lucky, 200,000 maybe, and maybe at some point scale. But right now, you're going to get the cheapest. You're not going to get the first quality and the commitment to the volume. But luckily, these guys really don't. They just making the partnership announcement, but they don't really have the goals to have the scale numbers.
Absolutely agree. In Europe, I think it's a little better because in Europe, EVs are not a secondary consideration. They are the objective for these companies. They have no choice starting in 2035 in a lot of countries. But in the US, we've seen it over and over for the last 5 years at least, where a big manufacturer says, we're going to make 500,000, we're going to make 1,000,000. And then as soon as the ground is broken and things start moving forward, they start walking it back until in many cases they just cancel it completely. And that that
Yeah.
pushes you not just to the back of the line, but further than that, because I don't know if I want to work with you at all
Burn
if
new
you're
ones.
going to be so flaky.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see. In Europe, there's a lot more models, there's a lot more choices. And with these battery factories showing up all over the world, and just yesterday, day before, I did a video all about the sodium ion batteries and the fact that they are becoming real. And I don't mean that they've left the lab. I mean, they are entering production. The factories are under construction, and not just one, but several of them from several different manufacturers with good output. And while the energy density is not sufficient to replace LFP yet, it's awfully close. For e-mobility, it works. For city cars, it can work. And if those cars are no longer, if all those applications are no longer using LFP or NMC chemistries, all of those move up the chain one step. Just like how stationary storage started with the cobalt batteries, with the nickel metal and manganese cobalt batteries. Now they're using LFP. Maybe stationary will soon shift to sodium. The sodium ion batteries have fewer cycles, only about 5,000 cycles as of last February that I'd heard. But now that's still enough. If the batteries are cheap enough, it's enough. And sodium is everywhere. It is abundant. It is more abundant than just about anything. Very exciting stuff, Herbert. I thank you for joining me. Everybody, follow Herbert, like, subscribe, do the usual things. Stay tuned, stay juicy, and I can't wait to hear from you, clever robots, on the flippity flop.